Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers Podcast. Today I'm joined by co founder, CTO at North.Cloud. They're a funky little startup over in New York, and we're going to be diving into AI FinOps. Big space at the moment. These guys and girls are providing a one stop shop platform built for control, savings, scale. And we're going to get into some of the technical challenges as to how they've actually gone about building North today, and also their opinion on some of the challenges that engineers are facing with AI FinOps or automated FinOps. Yassine, thanks for coming to join us.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Give us a bit of a background into you. Also, give us your very interesting backdrop to you joining North and then intro North.
Absolutely. I'll just take it back to the start. So I grew up in Morocco, went to an American school, ended up going to Florida for college, studied physics and computer science, went to biophysics research. Thought that was really fun, but did not like being in a lab. And then joined corporate America, where I had some experience with legacy systems and the cloud. It was my first kind of touch on what was possible out there with automation. I've worked as well at Hitachi Vantara for some larger hybrid on-premises and cloud work, and then wanted to start my own thing. And that's where I met my other co-founder that was pushing with this idea of helping customers bridge the gap between finance and engineering and help them with cloud costs. And we bumped heads. We created an MVP. We really started to build this relationship, started getting customers excited. And here we are right now. We're a company of a little bit over 22. We're having a huge office in Brooklyn. We're trying to hire so many people around the globe to get us to help other companies out there to really save and spend smartly. So that's how I got here. But yeah.
Love it. Take us a little bit deeper into North. If you're an engineer listening to this, like what can you expect from the product? What does the product do for your company, you?
It's a good question. So there's a lot of products out there that smell or look very similar to ours. And really, I think I'll lay what the real mission statement is behind North. And it's, like I said earlier, bridging the gap between finance and engineering. I think once we moved from a procurement-based, budget-based purchasing of on-premise databases, where before an IT project was created, you would have to purchase a set amount of servers. And then we moved to the cloud, where that set amount is taken out of the equation, and engineers can, with a click of a button, cause spend. And that discrepancy between the finance teams and the engineering teams has really caused a lot of an increased gap. So really what we're trying to do is solve that gap to allow both financial people and engineers talk the same language. And the final goal here is we want to help engineers focus on what they like to do, which is build a product, work on some cool features, and forget about the financial stuff. And then on top of that, not only are we removing that issue of the financial problems, we're also making them even more efficient and helping them save. So really, that's where we stand. We have a bunch of products and services that allow us to allow engineers to build more efficiently. There's savings, there's better visibility, there's better like infrastructure recommendations. So just to name a few.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's really unique, novel from my understanding about North. There's been some key design principles that allow engineers visibility, observability almost, if you like. Talk to us a little bit about those design principles, why you built them that way to enable engineers to take a little bit more ownership and autonomy of their own spend. Walk us through that.
So I think it stands from incumbents and existing solutions out there that we've seen before we even started. There's a lot of noise in the decision making, and our first decision behind building the product the way we've done it is to remove that complexity, one, and to make the decisions very easy, right? So removing the multiple layers of looking through what machine caused what, how the machine caused it, and how to remediate that. Really, what we're trying to do is make it so that the product gives you a one button in order to solve that problem. So that product decision of making things very simple and easy was a very hard decision to make, but we've seen ultimately allows for, like we said, those two departments, those two teammates on the finance and the engineering to speak the same language. Because at the end of the day, if we tell you that you can save money, I think that's universal.
I've seen, heard so many FinOps challenges over the years. I think also with the emergence of AI, language models, costs, it will start to create some more complexity, which we've got to talk about AI at some point today. But talk to us about pitfalls that you see modern teams often come across between finance and engineering, but also successes. Talk about some successes in terms of mobilizing a really good setup and using North.
It's a good question. So where we've seen people really thrive with the platform is enabling some of the very low hanging fruit that they were just not aware of. So that's like step one, being able to action those very easy decisions. But then the second thing that is really interesting that we've seen customers do is to leverage the features that we're offering them deeper than we think. So I think a simple solution here is we have like this feature called streams that allows beyond a visibility tool to spread your cost in these subsets of data and then to allow the allocation of costs to either teams or groups of people or departments. So it really allows people to split the visibility and split the allocation in order to have real control of who's doing what and what's happening. And there are aspects of this type of splitting and these features and this filtering that we did not know could be done. So we've kind of given the tools to these engineers and they've gone deeper and deeper. And we're getting, I mean, not to throw some names out there, some of the largest companies out there, some of the most exciting ones in New York, working in collaboration with us and partnering and be like, okay, now that we have all this data, can we give you even more data now in order to have better visibility? So now we're getting um, not only the existing cost and cloud costs that are there and being able to give them better visibility, we're also allowing them to send us their own metrics in order to figure out what their cost units are. So not only are we looking at cloud spend, but we're thinking about ROI per feature or per service. So I think a simple example here is you have a marketing company that wants to look at what their spend is per metric, per impressions. So they want to know if their ROI is valid per impression. And with North, you're able to do that by ingesting or importing your own metrics and then putting that relative to your cloud spend that you filtered out off of this very big, complex, convoluted cloud bill.
Interesting. So what you've seen really is companies really buying into this notion that they've got control of their cloud spend, but they actually want to take it a layer deeper and actually understand some of the metrics behind the products, features that they're building and how they're being utilized. That almost reconfirms and doubles down on some of your product market fit, really, which has been tremendous. Like if we talk about some of the figures, actually,
Yeah.
from, I'll let you say it, but 0 to how much?
So I think since we've had a conversation, that number increased even more. So I think we're projected to be very close to 9 or 10 million of revenue at the end of the year. We started about 2.5 years ago. The product really has been out for a year and a half, 2 years, really depending on if you're considering V1 versus V2. But product market fit honestly has been there the entire time. Now it's just about catching up to all the roadmap and the features that we're looking to do. So beyond those really fun numbers and the raise that we've done, the really exciting part is the amount of money that we've saved direct against their bill. And I think we're very close to in a a like a 5 million to 6 million per month of dollars saved against our customers. So really exciting, some great numbers on top of all the features, the visibility. So yeah.
Wow. Where does AI throw a curveball into all this? Because it does, whether
Yeah.
that's how you've injected it into the North product, how you're seeing it alter some customer spend. Like, what is your take on AI right now and how it's impacting North?
So help me guide this conversation because there's so many different channels that we can go down here. So there's a channel of cost increase because of AI. There's a channel of additional costs because of AI tools being used. And then there's the additional aspect of normalizing and bettering people and FinOps using AI. So a little bit of a tangent at North, we leverage AI very much, but we do it very contextually. So we give very strong guardrails for a lot of the code that we're developing, and we're essentially peer programming with AI. So in terms of development and engineering, it's been extremely great and allowed us to really push a lot of features very quickly. On the spend side, we've seen a lot of newly introduced costs. I don't think um, it's not the largest cost yet, but we can see a trend of increase. Absolutely. And the second thing is this is not a direct correlation or relationship, but I can clearly see how using AI for like code generation and not doing that contextually with the good guardrails and making sure that you're doing it properly can cause cost increases because you're spinning up infrastructure without looking at optimization um, of techniques. So definitely we see that cloud is going to be a huge cost in general, so relative to all your SaaS costs. And AI is a huge injector because of that. So definitely a lot of channels there. So it's been very exciting to be on the forefront of like cloud and AI and see all those trends and those opportunities for cost optimization. And I can go on and on really because of some of the features that we're like thinking about doing and work that we're doing, which is like GPU clustering and GPU renting out for people that are really like in need of that, or even like token optimization for customers that really are pushing the bounds of LLM. So really like curious to see like where you want to dive here.
Tell us about that token optimization, the GPU elements, because this seems like it does seem like a familiar problem that you've solved for customers, especially across cloud spend in terms of how you actually share that spend and
Yeah.
have visibility on multiple teams. So I'm keen to get a sense of the emergence of AI and how you're actually sharing this across teams, or that's the notion I'm picking up on.
Yeah. So at North, I guess the big advantage with our product is we're able to alleviate a lot of the like long-term commitments that customers have by being able to be very flexible and moving it from customer to customer within our ecosystem. And we've done that for compute and other services very well across multiple cloud providers, so people are not stuck on one cloud provider and they're not stuck on one service. So if you want to move from EC2 to Fargate, you can do that. You're not stuck with long-term commitments. If you want to move from AWS to GCP to Azure to whatever else, you can still do that. We'll be able to help you migrate your workloads and not be stuck with long-term contracts. And I guess the new avenue of GPUs and LLM is a new line item of cost that we're trying to figure out how to optimize. So we're playing around looking at trends within our cloud customer base, seeing if there's trends of costs that we can optimize for. So tokenization is a different approach of figuring out, can we look at the way they're pushing requests to different cloud providers? Are there LLMs that are cheaper than others? Are there different ways of hosting those LLMs versus using the publicly available offering? So those are the kind of the aspects that we're looking for. And then on the GPU aspect, it's very clear that there's like a demand. You get all these huge companies building and putting trillions of dollars, which again, I don't know where that money is coming from, but there's a demand. So we're trying to think about how do we help some of our customers bridge that demand without having to pay these premium costs. I don't think we have a defined feature yet, but we're thinking about those problems as we're solving kind of the problems that we've been solving really well.
Makes total sense. And that leads me to want to try and understand the complexity of how you've built North. There's a load of moving parts. You're
Yep.
very, I imagine, reactive to customers using different products, features, GPUs, cloud services. Talk to us, under the hood, how you've gone about building North and some of the technical challenges that you, the team in Brooklyn, are working on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. So to be completely transparent, we're solving those problems as we're building new features. And to kind of set the tone, I built the whole backend initially. So there was just me, another engineer. So a lot of the solution was built off of one feature. And as we scaled, we've gotten a lot more requests from customers, and we've seen that our scope is not only how can we save customers a little bit of money, but it's how can we bridge the gap between this entire cloud spend, not only for these hyperscale providers, but across all SaaS providers, right? So we're thinking about ingesting Databricks data, OpenAI data, and Snowflake data, et cetera, and allowing customers to normalize that view and start to think about spend as like a one factor versus thinking about all these different bills and being able to dissect that really well. So that shift from the initial scope of how do we save money versus how do we save cloud spend has pushed us to do a lot of like changes, right? So there's two ones I can think of. One is data migration. So we're trying to normalize our entire backend to only think about spend as like cloud agnostic, and that allows us to develop features quicker. So a simple example is initially we had two different backends for AWS and GCP, which meant that developing feature was developing feature for each. So double the work, double the amount of maintenance, double the amount of planning. And that scales exponentially as you add more and more cloud providers. So before we even jump to the next step, we've realized that we need to do something more mature by maturing the architecture. So we're moving towards a more normalized backend so that moving forward, whatever feature that we introduce is available for all the cloud providers. So a little bit of maturity, a little bit of work, but allows us to really scale much quicker. So these are like the lessons learned that happens when you go from, a pre-seed little startup that has a couple of customers to really a more mature working with some of the biggest companies in the world. And I could go on and on about like repo and CI/CD and some of the engineering monitoring and testing that we're doing, but really that is like the big caveat and the biggest advice I'll give to engineers or startup founders that are trying to build something is really try to think about where your scope is and how can you make sure to mitigate those migrations of those changes in the future, which will happen regardless. But yeah.
It's a sound piece of advice. You hear about building the boat as you're trying to ride it, or the expression, or whatever the expression.
It's something like that.
It's something like that. But yeah, absolutely, it's not easy, especially while trying to deliver for customers.
Right.
Double hard.
Right.
Double
Right.
hard.
And the other hard part is you want to make sure that you're developing a mature architecture in order for you to move quicker later. But you also do not want to move some of the feature development away from the roadmap. So you want to be able to manage both of those. And that's really the challenge of like a technical founder to figure out what are the business requirements that we need to push right now versus what are the engineering maintenance that we need to do. And the reason why this is so hard is because some of the back end work that we have to do is not visible to the business. It's more of a why do you need to do this migration? Why do you need to do all this maintenance? Well, it's order to deliver some of the other features that we think are needed in the next 2 to 5 years. Well, and it's not just delivering a crappy product. It's really thinking about the future.
Yeah, 100%. What are the features, products, trends even, are you keeping an eye on that you want to introduce into North's product, maybe A, or B, that you're seeing customers adopt and you're thinking, that's a really good idea. We need to start thinking about those too. They're almost two questions independently, North
Sure.
and where customers are building, and you think, yeah, we need some of that.
Okay, so I guess like to hit both topics and make sure I don't lose track here. So we're pushing our North agent, which is really a really cool feature and allows us to do a lot of things. So I think that's what we're doing internally that I think allows customers to be on the forefront. And on the other side, I'll hit the fact that customers have a really hard time tracking their cost per customer or per feature because their infrastructure is very entangled and kind of like the challenges that we have there as well for our customer base. So to start with the agentic approach, we're very bullish on allowing customers to interact directly with a agent instead of an application. So our application is always going to be there, and it might be useful for the very advanced developer and engineers that want to click around and go deep and do their own research. But we really see the value of people not having to interface with all these features and only have one channel, which would be the agent, right? So being able to develop that agent properly and doing it well in order for us to allow the customer to get all the answers they need correctly, but also quickly. And we're thinking beyond just this query search agent version of an agent, but we're thinking of we have all this data and all these patterns that we think we've solved. And I'm sure there's 80 to 90% of the patterns that we haven't seen or haven't solved or haven't thought about. What if we just have an agent constantly going through these patterns and trying to connect the dots through your data and figuring out what you can do to improve what you're doing? So really, that's where we're bullish. We're trying to test around and do some POCs. And then beyond that, we want to also allow this agent to make your decision making much easier, to do changes on your test environment to see how well you're optimized, et cetera, et cetera. So we're very bullish on that side. There's a lot of work. We've seen that it's something that customers are very excited about, and we don't want to just deliver a half-baked LLM with a wrapper around a chat GPT, which we don't use, but we want to build something very strong and well built. So we're working on that. And on the other side, regarding what we've seen customers like the trend and like what we see customers really like focus on and struggle with is that intrinsic hard part of figuring out where does your spend go per customer to see where you need to refactor or make changes. And the problem why this is so hard is when you have a monolith or a very entangled architecture, you cannot remove those costs or that usage per customer because every customer is using the same kind of black box. And we're working on different techniques to figure out, can we go through the authorization side on both ends to figure out how can we flow through the different components in an architecture and figure out where the spend is going to in order to aggregate that per customer. So there's different techniques and ideas that we're looking for, but this is probably the hardest problem there is out there right now to solve.
Interesting, especially on the agent orchestration part. And you touched on a point around the agent, specifically indexing on some of the data that you already have and making
Mm-hmm.
sense of that data. And I've had a number of people on the show recently who, ironically, have been building an AI SRE, and they've been speaking specifically about AI and our agents are only as good as the data that we have, and the culture that they're creating is specifically around we are a data vessel. That's how we're acting at the moment. If we can create a platform where we can absorb as much data as possible, we will make this agent, if people choose to engage with it, better as fast as possible.
Sure, I'll definitely push back because it's not just the data really for the agents. It's really about how you're building the agentic approach or the workflow approach of these agents. Because you can just have a very well constructed prompt where you're pushing all this information and requesting a response, which is fine and it works most of the time. But the problem there is the LLM just has too much general knowledge. What we've seen personally in our approach is that breaking down those components to very small actions and being very contextually precise on what the agent should be doing and having a lot of validation each step allows for a much better approach. So beyond the data being good, which obviously is needed, it's also the guardrails and the workflow required for a good agent. And that's something that we've done and worked on really hard. We could have just delivered an agent that worked fine, but we wanted to think about how do we make sure that we build the best agentic workflow so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel and make sure that we're just tuning the knob and optimizing in different areas so that the agent is as good as possible. So that's where I would push back, and I've seen personally work well.
Nice. Are you live with yours at the moment?
So we're in beta, but we think that we'll probably go in GA by the end of the month. We're very particular about how well the features deliver. So
And how long has that taken to get to this point?
I would probably say, depending on the version that we've developed, probably between 3 to 6 months. 6 months ago, we started developing and architecting what we wanted to do. 3 months ago, we had the current version architecture that we're deploying, and then it's been delivered right now.
Okay, nice. I want to touch base at some point in the future, like a 12 months revisit of this and see how the agent's coming on.
So really, maybe to kind of give, I mean, yourself and then the audience an idea of like where we want to go is the final goal is you want an agent to make the decisions for you. If it's an approval process, if it's a predefined amount of required changes that you are okay with the agent doing, or if it's completely automated where you fully trust the agent, you can turn that knob and we can figure out exactly what that looks like for customer basis. But we want to remove all decision making. So you don't have to go on an app to figure out how much you need to save. You don't have to figure out if there's anomalies happening on your infrastructure. Those can be fixed right away, or a full report is sent to like the responsibles, the team, so that they can investigate that more. And you can think of that as really you're fully automated like FinOps person, where you have this super engineer that has access to all your environments and can give you the answer right away, and not by being prompted, but by proactively sending you the information. And this engineer is not only extremely smart, but they're always there and they're always listening. So that's where we want to go. There's milestones to hit. We're at a point where we're connecting all the dots and we're allowing users to be able to probe the agent to get all the information, and we want to be very close in the next couple months in order for the agent to give recommendations for customers to start to action and make changes on behalf of them. And then we want to slowly get to the final step that I was talking about.
Love it. Anything else in the roadmap that you foresee embedding, building in over the next 12 months? And that's a great North Star to have, by the way, that
Pun
you
intended.
mentioned, but keen to understand other milestones that you might be anticipating.
I will say that we want to make sure that we integrate the correct amount of other providers that will solve our customer base's main issue, which is this cost visibility. So I think integration is a big one that we want in our roadmap to make sure that we're ingesting as much data as possible to allow different type of customer profiles to be served. I think we're very bullish on the streams feature, which allows customers to self-allocate costs and then create reports and have alerting. So instead of thinking of this like massive data set and not being able to allocate your cost, you can start to think about how do I subdivide all this data and give it to the responsible people, and then fully automated where we're budgeting the cost, we're alerting you, we're letting you know if there's any anomalies, and you can just own that chunk of your infrastructure without having to worry about all the analytics and the code and algorithms that you have to do. So that's like one thing that we're really excited about. And then, yeah, the agent is a really cool one that we have on the roadmap.
It is cool. It is really cool.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to learn more about who you'd ideally like to add to the fold in Brooklyn. I know hiring the right people is going to be a focus for you. So share a little bit more context there in terms of who you want to be looking at over the next 0 to 12 months in terms of bringing them in.
Sure. So I think initially I was very specific with the type of engineer that we wanted, but really there's some core principles that I'm looking for. There's a lot of space, and we're trying to hire a lot. So if you're a smart, driven, motivated engineer, and this is the cookie cutter answer, I'm looking to talk to you, and I'm excited to learn about your background and what you've built. But really, ultimately, I'm trying to find some senior engineers with some either full stack experience or people that have an expertise on the big data side, the infra side, or the ML slash agentic side. So I think I cast a very large umbrella there, but I have a lot of space for smart people to come work on really exciting problems. And yeah.
Love it. So if you're a smart person, if you're driven, if you want to work with a team that's done 0 to 9, 10 mil in the last 2.5 years, that really is working at the cutting edge in terms of where companies are building at the moment and managing spend. I think you should go and talk to Yassine. You've been a diamond. I want to say a massive thanks for coming to join us on the podcast.
Absolutely. Elliot, it was a pleasure. Great questions. I'll add one more thing, if that's okay. I think we're very much undervalued in the eyes of the public relative to the problem that we're solving and the momentum that we have. And I think if people are excited about building something very complex that solves everybody's problem, really, because everybody's on the cloud for the most part, this is like a great opportunity, and very biased for me to say that, but I truly believe it.
No, I truly believe it. I think we're talking about some staggering numbers here in terms of customer savings and what you're generating ARR as a business. This means there's incredible value for customers. This means customers love you. So
Yeah.
I imagine you are undervalued, maybe on the face of things.
And it's a good thing to be sometimes. You wanna build slowly and well so that you build the product that really shines. And the way I see us is that the next 6 to 12 months, we're gonna grow exponentially, where we're solving all these problems and we're integrating with all these solutions. And people are finally gonna think of North as the one solution when it comes to managing your cloud. So whenever you want to build a company or build a project or develop a feature, all you need to do is integrate with North, and then you have that peace of mind when it comes to cost.
100%. You've been an absolute diamond, like I said. I'm looking forward to seeing the trajectory of the business and how you continue to grow. And it's been great listening to the last 30 minutes or so about your journey as a founder, building the business, and where you're keeping your eye, how you're building things. So again, a massive thank you. And for people listening, likes, shares, subscribership, go and check out North. Talk to your managers, talk to your finance team, go and check these guys and girls out, and also go and check Yassine and the team out.
Lovely. North.Cloud.
North.Cloud. And it's bye for now from us at Engineers. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. what we're trying to do at Enginears is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found Enginears.io. It's no_. We've also got a website, which is engineers.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.